It's a large language model. So it's like ChatGPT. It's like DeepSeek.
Today I sit down with Humayun Sheikh, CEO and founder of FetchAI, to discuss the revolutionary new launch of the ASI-1 Mini, the world's first Web3 LLM.
In this case, what we will be doing is we will be making our LLM community owned.
This has the potential to be bigger than ChatGPT, bigger than DeepSeek.
You can look at ChatGPT's value, you can look at Mistral's value, or any of the others. They have huge values, the billions of dollars.
Highly recommend you watch today's entire video to learn how you can get involved.
The community will be able to own a piece of this billions dollars worth model, right? And only people who will be able to do that are FET holders.
Thank you, FET, for being an Altcoin Daily sponsor. And let's start, Humayun, on how you first found crypto.
Absolute pleasure, Austin. Really lovely to be here. I got into crypto, but before I got into crypto, I got into AI. So I was founding investor in DeepMind. 2013, I made an exit from there. I was also part of the commercialization team, so we're looking to commercialize AI and finding ways. And now you might go back now, 2008, 2009. So there wasn't that much, AI wasn't really that well known. So commercializing it was only big companies' game. So that's kind of where it started. And then I think 2015, when kind of all the Ethereum and stuff kicked off. So looked at, I mean, I was never a Bitcoin investor as such, but I quite liked Ethereum's model, the whole, the ability to do something and execute something on chain. That's what got me kind of attracted to it. And then taking what I was doing in the AI space, we were looking at how to commercialize it, and I felt the best way to do it is via AI agents. And so based on that premise, I started in 2017 and kind of got into crypto because I kind of got fascinated with the decentralized ledger technology and actually orchestration and coordination with agents, fits right in. So it was really good synergy there. That's how I got into kind of decentralized space. I never got into like buying and selling crypto. So
And then in 2017, FetchAI.
2018, end of 2018, 2019, early 2019 is when we kind of started Fetch AI in terms of actually doing the work. I mean, it was set up perhaps 2017. Yeah.
For somebody who's never heard of FetchAI, could you just explain what that is?
So Fetch AI is taking agent technology, agent framework, and making it usable by normal people. And we're trying to do this in a decentralized way so that no one entity can control it. And what in componentized manner, what it means is you have an agent framework, not just one agent. It's an agent, a Google of agents. So we are building, or we actually have a running technology where you can register your agents and you can be found and you can interact, you can communicate. But underneath it, you have other layers whereby these agents need to communicate with you. These agents need to find out what they have to do, and they need to have reasoning capabilities. They need to have learning capabilities. So we build all that infrastructure.
Could you go through also some of the milestones or the evolution of FetchAI from how it started to where it is today?
Yeah, I mean, when we started this 2018, 2019, and you told somebody, hey, we're building AI agents, I think people thought, this is too far in the future, it's never coming. So, it was quite a difficult journey in the beginning, but we were actually doing a lot of research. We were looking at multi-agent systems. We were looking at how these multi-agent systems can actually interact and collaborate with each other. So we did a lot of research for the first couple of years. Then we started building a truly decentralized open economic framework. And we actually coined the term autonomous economic agents. And those became kind of the place where we wanted to start from, where you can have a decentralized entity which can actually take the orchestration, putting the agents together, registration, auditability, everything. But then we needed to kind of go into deeper into the chain itself, and Ethereum just wasn't capable of recording the things of the way we wanted to operate. So we had to build our own chain, and then we kind of transitioned towards Cosmos because building a chain wasn't really what we kind of came out to do. So we felt Cosmos, it has a modular system. So we actually went in for that, and and we kind of stuck with that in terms of we deployed our layer one on Cosmos, and we have a chain. And so that's kind of transition because these agents need to have a name, they have to have a registration, they need to be able to communicate, they need to be able to find ways to search for each other, record their transactions, record their availabilities. So all of that is now on the layer one chain. So obviously we have the token called FET, and that's kind of how the journey started. And then we felt that the whole decentralized way of agents was too complicated for normal users. And I think that's the general problem in crypto all the time. We kind of overcomplicate it, so normal people struggle to use it. So we kind of created another variant or the diluted version of the fully decentralized one, where we believed in progressive kind of decentralization. And that platform then evolved into micro agents. So instead of doing just agents, and we can get into this discussion, what are agents, because that's quite an interesting topic in itself. But just to give you an idea, micro agents are effectively microservices. So because when you're building a whole process, you need these small services to come together to actually execute the whole intent-based action, whatever that action is. So we have a framework and a platform where you can actually build these microservices, and they're called micro agents because they have some cognitive ability, they have communication ability, they're adaptable, they're dynamic. So you can't, I mean, we call them agents, but they're like just a single task, very small agent with communication and the ability to actually do some cognitive kind of tasks. So that's where we are right now.
So you guys coined the term autonomous agents.
Autonomous economic agents, yes.
Why do you think it's such like a renaissance or it's coming into the zeitgeist recently? And then also, how is Fetch? How did you guys differ, or what did you provide that was unique in the space that they came from you?
Uh, if you look at there's a lot of noise in agents. I'm not saying, they're not valuable, but there is a lot of noise. You connect an LLM into a single piece of, let's say, post on Twitter. That's not that's not a true agentic system, right? Because that's just a integration which you can do without an agent. What an agentic system is that you have these components which assemble themselves intelligently and take your intent and then deliver that intent in terms of action. Uh, so if this economy, the whole thing needs to really work together, the whole idea is to bring the actual platform framework and put it in front of people where people can actually register and do stuff and build stuff. And that's what really our forte is. We're not just let's build one-to-one agent and today it's here and doing one thing and tomorrow it's gone. That's not the point. The point is to enable everybody to build on top of this framework. Of course, we have components where we will showcase use cases, and we have done so. But the core premise of Fetch is to build that framework, to build that platform.
So Fetch is aiming to be the blockchain for AI.
I wouldn't say it that way because a blockchain for AI, we shouldn't have a blockchain for AI because we should have interoperability. Because it's agentic, because it's AI, it should be able to do multiple chains. And that's also one of our thesis, which is, interoperability should come with agents. The ability to actually choose your chain and then still be able to complete tasks on other chains is exactly what we are proponents of. So we're building a framework, a generalized and a specialist, both, because some people want to have the freedom, some people want to have less freedom. So a generalized and a specialist uh, framework for these agents to one, uh, kind of be built, hosted, and connected to each other. So that's really, so it's like saying it's effectively like the HTML, HTTP. It's like the TCP/IP of agents, where you can connect these agents. And then on top of that, whereas the application layer is the search and discovery of agents, which is more kind of effectively the Google of agents. So how do you find them? So we're building those two separate layers.
I want to dive into some of your latest releases, but before we get too off, can you talk to me about the artificial superintelligence artificial superintelligence alliance, the thought process and how you got there, and what is it?
Yeah. So it's an alliance of different projects where we put everything, our technologies and our tokens together. Um, I'll kind of discuss both separately. Uh, we are projects who have actually got experience in the AI space or in the data space, and putting a tech stack together where you have the convenience of using the whole tech stack with one token. Now, so who are what are the components? So let's look at the components. So if you're going to build an AI application, the application layer is agents, right? And so agents are the ones who actually do things, execute things intelligently, dumbly, whatever you want to call it, but they're the ones who actually execute. So you go underneath it, then you have this understanding layer, the algorithms, the machine learning, the AI, which actually runs it, which understands it, orchestrates it. If you come further down, you have this whole data layer, because you need these machine learning models, these AI models to be trained to kind of bring everything together. So that's kind of the data layer. So if you think about, and then you think about how are you going to train these models, how are you going to run them, then you have the compute layer. So you have all the layers in this tech stack as one, run by one unified token ecosystem, one token economy. But different projects come together to do that. So we have Singularity Net, which is specialist in AI research, building machine learning models, building AGI. That's the aim, to get to AGI ultimately. But it has to be decentralized AGI. So with that, hence we are in this space. Data comes, and the data tools come from our other partner, which is Ocean Protocol. So they bring that data kind of, uh, not just experience, but also the toolkits that they've already built. Underneath that, you have the compute layer, which is the Kudos, which is the Kudo compute platform. What they do is bring compute GPUs and everything together and put a layer of software which is decentralized on top, so you can actually have decentralized compute. So, so if you think about building a AI solution for anything, you need all those components. And what happens in centralized entities is that you have these components available as a service. Now, if we are to build a solution which is actually equally good, if not better, we have to kind of look at that model, because we need to see how people are going to use it. Is the application, if you're thinking the application layer is going to be done by agents, and then you have to do this complicated integration with machine learning algorithms, and then you have to have another complicated integration with how the data comes in, and then you have to use another project to provide the compute, you kind of actually, there's too much work for not any good reason, because this could be part of a kind of a tech stack which just works. So we kind of cut out a lot of DevOps, a lot of complicated integrations, and then don't forget, on top of that, you have this complication of the token. So every layer is built by another project who has another token, and then suddenly you kind of interacting with 4 or 5 tokens just to build an application, which is, why would you do that? I mean, it doesn't happen in the centralized space, right? So it's inefficient, and that's the thinking behind this alliance was. We add um, our expertise, we add our tokens together, and to provide a coherent alternative to a centralized entity. The projects hold their own and they do their own thing, but they have this component where they come together to actually deploy this tech stack together where people can build solutions.
So this is like a super AI protocol.
Um, you can call it that. I just like to simplify it because I know it sounds grand, but it's an alliance in the sense that we needed to build this tech stack. And I don't know if you've read that book, or your listeners might have read it. It's an innovation stack effectively, because you want this to be unique, but you also want this to be very usable. And so yes, it's a kind of uh, it's kind of a tech stack for building artificial general intelligence. That's what and it's decentralized. So it's a decentralized general intelligence kind of. The premise is that we bring all the efforts together and focus on actually creating something which kind of leads into this AGI, which and we'll come and discuss more about the models, but that's the premise.
So for clarity, Ocean Protocol, kudos, they don't have tokens anymore. It's all FET.
Yes, that's true. And Singularity and FET. So yeah, all of this now becomes one. There might still be tokens with people who are holding it, but they have a ability to convert anytime.
Uh, I love that, Fetch AI was, the one that brought everybody together and FET kept the token. That's cool.
I mean, the token is due to at some point will be changed into ASI token. It causes a lot of barrier to entry for people, and it causes a lot of issues to change just the token contract. So we kind of paused on that at the moment. So it is FET, yes, but it's no representation of the projects are still participating equally, right?
Let's get to the big news. You guys just launched ASI-1 Mini. What is it for somebody who's never heard of it?
It's a large language model. So it's like ChatGPT, it's like DeepSeek, it's like any of those. But it's built by us, it's proprietary, and we built it at like 1/8 of the cost. We are making it available to the Web3 community. It will cost you nothing if you actually hold the FET token in your wallet. I mean, there are tiers. All you have to do is you don't have to pay for it at this point. You just hold the token, and then you get different tiers of service. So you can, for example, have prompts of 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 100,000. It kind of it's tiered, but it's only so if you have like 100 FET, you just hold it in your wallet. You can use the LLM. When you pull it out, then you can't use that tier. So then it stops. But you can pull out exactly what you put in. So it doesn't cost you anything as such. But what that enables you to do is the Web3 community to actually engage with an LLM at a much, much, much lower cost.
Is is Grok or ChatGPT, those have a paywall, I guess? Or how is this different than the blue chips in the
They,
space?
they, they do they do have a paywall, but technically there is a difference. So first, let's look at it's a mini, so it's not a full-blown model. The full-blown model will be released in time, and we're working on it. We're gonna make it available very soon. So it has some limitations. It's a smaller model, um, but it's at par, if not better, at some things, and I'll come to those some things. But it's at par with all of them. So you wouldn't find. I mean, I'll give you a very good example, and I don't know, you might want to try this. So if we all heard about DeepSeek and how it's brilliant at reasoning and everything. Ours is also a reasoning model. But if you put how many R's in a strawberry, which is the strawberry test, as we know from ChatGPT, if you type that into a model and type that into the DeepSeek model, you'll see the difference of how quickly our model responds and how quickly their model responds. They go into this 10, 20-second loop. We provide you the answer in half a second. So it's quite interesting that, although we do reasoning, we do contained reasoning. And the reason why we do it that way is our model is not about talking to people for days and doing just the textual, although it is pretty good at that as well. Our objective is to make agentic solutions possible and better. So when I say that, what I mean is you need an LLM to communicate with, which is the Meta AI agent, call it. So that communicates with you in the language. It then has to identify which tasks it needs to do. It then has to go to the fetch framework, which is what I was explaining to you, that there's micro agents sitting there, and it says, okay, I need to do this task and I need these micro agents, and I'm going to connect with them, and I'm going to then provide you the execution of what you asked for. Now, so there are two components which are different. I'm sure some people would have heard it, but some people might not have heard it. It's a mixture of experts is a technique which is used in LLMs, which is what it enables you to do is actually parallelize the process of getting to the answer when you ask a question to an LLM. And what it does is it kind of breaks it into different experts and it kind of processes them in parallel. So what we did was an extension of this model where we say you have a mixture of models. So for example, if you ask a financial question, rather than building a huge model which is good at everything, what we're suggesting is we need to build a model which is good at everything generally, but then you need these specific models which are very particularly good at whatever the field is, like in finance. So what the whole premise is, the structuring. So it's a mixture of experts model, which then translates into a mixture of models itself. And then it goes into the mixture of agents, because once you've kind of gone to the specialist models and you know the answers to these things, you then need to execute it. And to execute it, you need to have the right agents to go to. So this LLM architecture enables you to find those right agents and then execute them. So when you're building a solution, it becomes very easy to build an agentic solution. Because you have this specialist LLM, which is kind of orchestrating all of that. But there is a very interesting part, which I think is less technical and is more the principle and the whole ethos of what we are doing, which is decentralization. So in this case, what we will be doing is we will be making our LLM community owned. So you have these ChatGPT model, DeepSeek model. I mean, they're billions and billions of dollars, right? Mistral, and all of them is like 20 billion, 80 billion, 50 billion. That's the valuations of the team and the model itself, and it's mostly to do with the model. And what we are saying is we're going to take this model and we're going to make it community owned. So the community will be able to own a piece of this billions dollars worth model, right? And only people who will be able to do that are FET holders. So if you hold FET, you will be able to participate in the ownership of these models. And this is LLM is only one component. We have all the medical models, we have robotic models. All of these models are very highly valuable. I mean, okay, a lot of people own meme coins. They don't seem to have intrinsic value, but these models, intrinsically they have value, because and I don't have to justify their value. The value is in the market. You can look at ChatGPT's value, you can look at Mistral's value, or any of the others. They have huge values, the billions of dollars. And our ethos is that the community should own those values. We've been working hard to make that happen, and that this is only the tip of the iceberg, because you have so many other models, like medical models, for example. You can do radiology assessments. Those models, they all have value, and community will be owning that value. So there are two differences from the other LLMs that exist. One is the reasoning is slightly unique. The architecture is unique technically. And the other thing is that we are making it community owned. So community will participate into the financial success of these models. Because on the other side, if you think about it, if agent builders and you're using ChatGPT for work, and a lot of people are now starting to use it, you're paying like $60, $200 at some times, maybe even more than that per month. And the ones who are free are not free forever, right? So they are going to be charging. So in this case, what you're doing is you're actually holding an asset, which is FET token. You're not losing it. You're actually effectively staking it. And from the staking, you're actually paying for the utilization of it. So ultimately, if or it might not, it might. I'm not suggesting either way. But when you are ready to withdraw, you can actually withdraw the FET coin, but you've then also used the model effectively for free. So that's quite a unique kind of tokenomic architecture that these, well, not just this LLM, but as I said, this is only the beginning. We have several other models coming, physics models, medical models, radiology models, financial models. So we opening it up to community ownership for all of them. So if you're holding a FET token, you're going to be able to participate in all of them.
Do you see this as the decentralized, community-owned DeepSeek killer or ChatGPT killer? Because why would I use those if this is community-owned?
Sure. Absolutely. We're going to be at par, if not better, than all of them.
Wow. Um,
Because
tell
it's
me.
community owned. I mean, the training is also decentralized. We're putting in place decentralized training. So you can actually come in. You can actually participate via training it. Because the diversity and the inclusion that we will bring, it will make it better.
So what is ASI train?
Right. So that leads into exactly that point. So all these models, they need training. Um, we are opening that training up to the communities as well. So you have different levels where you can make an entry into this, whereby if you could just hold FET token, which is we have a earn and burn mechanism. So as the revenues start to come in, we're going to start burning a proportional amount from those revenues. We're going to burn it so it becomes a deflationary token. So that's one. So you don't have to do anything. If you just hold it, it's a deflationary token. There's no guarantees, commitments. It's not a financial advice to hold it. I'm just giving you a reason of the tokenomics here. So the second thing is if you hold it, you can actually be a user of these models because you will need to hold it in your wallet to become a user of these models. So you can actually effectively generate revenue in the sense that you're using it, but you're not paying for it. Your staking rewards are paying for it. So that's the second part. Third part is the community can actually own these models. So there, ASI Train is an initiative whereby we're going to be bringing different sets and groups of models. So for example, the first subset is called Cortex. So Cortex will include language models, robotics, vision, language, action models. So that's to do with the fact either your language, your reasoning, your ability to kind of interact with things, just like the brain, the cortex contains all those models. So that's that subgroup of models, which then will become community owned because there will be a mechanism which we will release very soon for the community to participate in it and also then receive any revenues coming from it. I mean, because not just the decentralized community can use it. I mean, if the model is good, other outside communities can use it and they will pay for it too. And also the staking rewards which pay for the service also get distributed to the community. So as the revenues come in, earn and burn happens, and then you kind of get appreciation that way. And then as you train these models, and there is a mechanism of training them in a decentralized way, which then gives you rewards based on, or rewards mean the ownership of the model proportionately, which then ultimately rewards you because you're going to get the revenues through. So if somebody's building a solution and it goes to your model and pays 10 cents, those 10 cents will get distributed amongst the people who, the community which owns the model. And when and another kind of interesting layer, which I think we haven't discussed with the community yet, and it's the first time we're discussing this with you, is these models. I mean, I'm not saying one way or another, but logically, as you train these models, the value of the model improves. As the accuracy of the model increases, the value of the model increases. So we're going to enable communities to actually not only just own the piece of this model, but also to be able to trade these models. And when I say trade these models, the valuations will be either done via the community itself or from the outside sources, auditable sources. So we will actually give value to all these models or these subset models. And the community can then trade it. It becomes its own tradable real world asset.
Wow. You mentioned some of this already, but specifically in 2025, what's on the roadmap?
All of this, which we just discussed.
Okay.
So on the roadmap is we're doing a much better integration of the tech stack, which I just explained to you. Now, I mean there are obviously parts, Fetch is leading it, but ASI is building this whole integrated tech stack. I'm gonna focus more on the Fetch side, and then I'll come back to ASI. We are starting this train initiative, which in itself is a very interesting and a new model. I mean, we haven't seen this before, where you actually take all these models, you do two things: you train them, you own them, and that's going to be rolled out in the next month. Because we still plan to do some improvements on this LLM, and then the ownership will come. So within the next 3 to 4 weeks, we're going to start seeing the ability for the market to come and participate. But if you'll only be able to participate if you have that token. And so we expect that to carry on because we have, I would say, probably 20, 30 models already in the pipeline. And I think this whole thing is gonna continue because, if you think we're seeing a lot of interest from developers on Hugging Face who are building these models, but they have no way to monetize them. So this will be their monetization strategy effectively. So we will build that architecture where people can actually deploy these models, earn from these models, train them, again, earn from the utilization of it. So that's one set, which is ASI train. We also then have the agentic system. So we're bringing we actually as the infrastructure matures, the agentic layer is maturing. We're seeing a lot more agents being populated and Agentverse, which is one of our product, which is like a registration service. So you can actually own the agent's name. You can just like an ENS kind of service. So your agent will have a very unique name, entity, and address. So anybody who wants to communicate with them would know exactly who they're communicating with. So we're building so that will be rolled out in the next 2-3 weeks. So we have a huge lineup for this year, as we promised last year, and we're going to roll all of that out. Ultimately, what should happen I mean, you asked for this year. So by the end of this year, we would have rolled out ASI train. We would have had all the models being trained and community owned. Our LLM will be performing actions for our agentic network, and our agentic network will be kind of ready and able for people to deploy it.
Mayan, I feel like I have such a better understanding of the basics and the vision of FetchAI, and the artificial superintelligence alliance from this conversation. I appreciate you coming on. What haven't we mentioned on the product and anything? What haven't we covered?
I think what we probably need to think about is a little bit more perhaps on how we see this space kind of evolving, because that will give you even more clarity on what we are doing and why we're doing it. And I think a lot of your listeners probably don't have that because we haven't discussed this too much in public anyway. Um, 3 to 5 years in the future, we will be looking at applications being built in a different way. There will be agentic applications, and you can see that the signs of that are already happening. These agents and these agentic systems are going to actually use the whole of the ASI tech stack, which we mentioned, because agent is just the tip of the iceberg, right? It just sits on the top. Underneath it, you need to have the whole infrastructure. So, for example, an agent can take a query from you. That query needs to go to a language model, which then needs to identify what to do with this, and then actually ask you questions intelligently and learn from them and learn what your likes and dislikes are. So, all the things that we do, they're going to be based on machine learning and AI models. We don't. I can't impress on you how important these models will become, and because your physics models are going to kind of decide if the agent sees a ball is going to actually fall or is going to roll one way or another way to make that decision. So they're like the input output, but they need to use models. They will be using medical models to assess, or x-rays. I mean, that's already happening. It's already happening, but it's not happening in a more coherent way. So I'll be able to upload in Africa, a hospital will be able to upload an x-ray and use this infrastructure to actually get a report and assessment on the patient. Now, you can see on these underdeveloped communities, and sometimes they don't have the resource to build these models, and they don't have the access because, these are not community-owned projects. These are centrally owned projects, but we're making our mission to actually make that happen. And of course, there will be revenue coming through because it's a utility, it's a true utility with that we're going to be providing. But that revenue doesn't have to be those amounts that we have to pay today, and that revenue gets distributed to the community because ultimately the community needs, and it's no easy way to participate into this AI ecosystem. Crypto kind of is one of the easiest ways to participate financially into this ecosystem. So I think that's quite an interesting um, kind of perspective on it because ultimately people do need to be financially rewarded as well.
So if I hold the FET token, then I get a piece of the revenue?
You get the piece of the revenue, yes. I mean, any initiative that you have, you get it in several ways. You can actually go into a model and receive the revenue, but if you don't do anything, we have already announced that earn and burn, and that was the purpose of it. That earn and burn is if when we generate the revenue, a portion of that revenue gets burnt, and you get a deflationary token which sits in your wallet. So although we are growing and growing the ecosystem, we have to keep growing the token's value in sense of utility. That translates into a deflationary pressure, but you also get other ways of participation. I mean, you can do staking, simple staking. You can go into a model, but not only that you go into a model where there will be a revenue share, but also the model itself will be tokenized and will be available in the secondary market to trade with. So if you think about, let's say this LLM that we announced it's at par with, you know, any of the others. What is the value of this and who owns the value of this? And what we're saying is we're going to make it community owned, but we're also going to give the ability to the community to actually trade the values.
Wow. Humayun, I hope you come back in 3, 4 months. We can revisit a lot of this progress. Where can the audience go to find out more information or keep tabs on this?
Yeah. So the token is FET. I mean, any social media you go to, type in fetch.ai, FET, Artificial Superintelligence Alliance, you will get plenty of information. But our website is fetch.ai, which is our name. So if you want to, you know, participate or read what we do, especially on the agentic side, then fetch.ai. But if you want to try out this LLM that we've just released, and I think a lot of people are at the moment trying it out, and some very interesting comments coming back, in a good way, then the website is ASI1.ai.
I tried it out just before this conversation, just logged in, and it was, just the first couple prompts, it was like a ChatGPT. It was like a Grok.
Yep, it should be at least at par, perhaps even better in some. I mean, I would challenge you to kind of ask it, what does it actually do and why is it special? It'll give you the answer.